So let's talk a little bit about the legal requirements and how you open a homeschool in North Carolina.
The law states that homeschool is a non-public school consisting of children with 2 or fewer families, or 1 or 2 families or households. It can be parents, legal guardians, or members of either household determine what you teach, how you teach it. They're in charge of providing the academic instruction and any additional sources of academic instruction. What's really nice is the flexibility to you can hire a tutor if you feel like I can't do math. Well, you can hire a tutor to help you with math. You can participate in group settings, so you can do a co-op, or you can every Friday go and get a group together. Mm-hmm. You can do apprenticeships, online classes. It's really endless what you can do, right. Which I like the flexibility for that.
Right, and that's just, you can do that by a certain class or for all your curriculum, so there's a lot of flexibility there. Mm-hmm. So in North Carolina, compulsory education begins at age 7. So that means also that you don't have to open a homeschool, a legal school, until your children are 7 or your oldest child is 7. You can just start homeschooling whenever, at whatever age, 4, 5, 6, and use curriculum or not use curriculum or do what you want. If they have been in school, you do need to withdraw them. In order to homeschool, but that you would just say that you're bringing them home to homeschool. But then when your oldest child turns 7, that's when you have to file what's called a notice of intent. Right? You want to talk about what a notice of intent is?
Okay. A notice of intent is just a form, I believe it's online, that you can send into the North Carolina Department of Non-Public Education, and it just says that it has the teacher's name, the administrator's name, and address and phone number, and that you're opening a homeschool. It's not asking permission to start a school. It's just saying I'm opening a school, and you're legally allowed to do that. And the important thing that you just said is if your student is 7 or older, you want to do that before you withdraw your student.
Yeah.
Once you get that acknowledgement, not permission, but acknowledgement, then you go to the school and you withdraw your student. And if your student is under age 7, you just homeschool them, and then within 30 days before they turn 7, then you would file that notice of intent.
Right.
And it's also important that you only do it one time. It's not 1 per student, it's 1 per school. So once you've done it once, you can add as many students as you want. You don't need to keep filing a notice of intent.
Right. So what are the requirements there are just a few requirements that are for a legal homeschool. And in order to open a homeschool, what are the requirements?
Okay. You have to choose whether you're going to operate it as a religious school or an independent or non-religious school. That's basically, there's no difference in how you're going to teach. It's just you check a box.
Right.
How you feel.
I think that's just for the department to keep statistics.
Right.
They keep statistics on things like that, and there is no difference otherwise.
You have to operate on a regular schedule, at least 9 calendar months of the year, but that excludes holidays, vacations. You don't have to do 5 days a week like the traditional schools. Many times I did 4 days a week, and or you could do however you want. You could do several weeks on, a couple weeks off, kind of like a year-round modified schedule, but you get to choose the schedule. You have to maintain immunization records, and you have to maintain attendance records, annual records, and just have them on file. You don't have to turn them into anybody. You just have to keep them.
And that's just a calendar. Attendance is a calendar where you check off a day that you did educational activity, whatever that is. Because for us, that was most days. Because whether it's a field trip or whether you're watching videos on Discovery Channel, or if you're doing your spelling and math books, those are all educational activities.
Right, and there's a template online, but you don't have to use that. You can just circle it on a calendar if you want to. Once a year, you have to give a nationally normed standardized test, achievement test. that includes English, grammar, reading, math, and spelling. You can test more things if you want to, but you don't have to. And you have to keep the results for 1 year. And that would include things like the Iowa, the CAT. There are a lot of different tests. In high school, that would include the ACT test with writing.
Mm-hmm.
And remind me, does that include the SAT now?
It does, yeah. They've
the
added that recently. And I know that some of those tests, like I know the CAT test, for instance, now is available to do online, where it didn't used to be. It used to all just be the pencil and paper tests, but some of the tests you can do online. And there are support groups that do testing as a group, but you can also just do it at home with your family.
Absolutely.
And
the last thing is when you're not homeschooling anymore, you have to notify the Department of Non-Public Education that you want to close your school. You have to do that, I think, within 3 months of the time you stop instructing your student.
Right. So another thing to open a homeschool is you have to have at least a high school diploma or its equivalent. So a GED would be fine, college degree, but you're going to have to send in proof of that. So either get a copy of your diploma or have your school send a transcript, but that's going to have to be part of your notice of intent.
Correct.
Right. So those are the basic legal requirements. There are also responsibilities and freedoms that come with filing that notice of intent. And some of the things that people ask a lot about are what does the state require that you teach? How many days are you supposed to teach? So some of those things that are questions people ask.
Well, you get to decide.
Right.
You get to decide what you want to teach, where you want to teach, how you want to teach. It's pretty much up to you. The state is not going to provide any, any curriculum. You have to get that, and that's easy to do now. We have a local store. Local stores will have books online. You can order them. We have annual homeschool conference, multiple ones in the state. So lots of different choices to get curriculum. You can make your own curriculum. You don't have to use books.
Right. Too much to choose from. And we're going to talk more about that in other videos of how to choose curriculum and some of the things that go into that. But it is important to remember that you basically are a private school, and you have the freedom and that a private school would to decide what you teach and when you promote your children, what your graduation requirements are. That's something you set for your homeschool. And I know most homeschoolers for graduation will look at what the child wants to do after graduation and make that how they plan their high school years, to make sure you have those admissions requirements for college or skills needed to go into the workforce or whatever that is. That's how you would plan your high school. But the state doesn't have requirements for those things for homeschools. Yeah. In North Carolina, for the 2018-2019 school year, which is the most recent one that has published statistics, there were 90,688 homeschools registered in the state of North Carolina. So that number has been growing every year. It's going to grow this year. And that's just the students in the compulsory education, who have opened homeschool. There are more homeschools than that because some of them have kindergarten and first graders who aren't compulsory school age yet. So the DNPE stands for Division of Non-Public Education, and that is the state agency that is over homeschools as well as private schools. So it's under the Department of Administration, and we'll put that address on the screen too. That's where you go to file your notice of intent and to find out all these legal requirements are listed there, as well as recommendations and some other information. That's really helpful. Is there anything else you were going to add?
I was just looking at statistics for the United States, and I think this is a few years old. It's at least 3.3% of all K through 12 students are being homeschooled. That's over 2 million students. So it's not a tiny fraction.
Right.
everybody knows
a
somebody
growing
homeschooling.
number. Yeah. And I think just a couple of years ago in North Carolina, the number of homeschool students surpassed the number of private school students for the first time. So as a whole, there are many homeschool students in the state, and that number again is growing, which means that there are more, there's more support and opportunities too for homeschool students.
You talked about a lot of the freedoms, but the responsibilities. When your student graduates, you're going to have to provide a transcript. And even if they're not college bound, it would be a really good idea, because a lot of jobs require proof of a high school education. So you would want to create a transcript. It's something you create. There are tons and tons of templates online that you can get, or programs, or you can make your own. It's as simple as putting your name, student's name, address, phone number, what subjects they took in high school, and the credit equivalent for each class, and any standardized tests that they took would be on there. And then you would sign and date it, and you would have a legal transcript. And then, of course, when your student graduates, you're going to provide a diploma. You can hand make it, you can have it printed out nice and fancy from some company, however you want to do it. But you're responsible for providing the transcript and the diploma. And it's really important, because for instance, if you went to the public school, you could always call the school and get a copy of your transcript. But you can't do that, so you have to keep that for your student. Make multiple copies, maybe keep them in a really safe place, have backups, so that student would always have that copy of that transcript and that diploma.
Right. And I think we've covered